What's going on, guys? We are coming at you today with the 6 rules we stuck to during pregnancy. So Mega's had 2 pregnancies and I've had 2 phantom pregnancies, which is where I eat a lot of food. It's some sort of natural thing that just happens.
It happens to all men, husbands.
I don't know what, and now like she had the baby and I'm just like lifting weights and stuff. I'm just like back at it.
There was like a 3-4 month stint where you were like, I'm done lifting weights, I'm gonna become a walker.
I never said that. You really played that
You
up.
literally said, I'm gonna become a walker.
I don't think I said that.
I'm gonna go to the Olympics for speed walking.
But a lot of people have been commenting on our videos about like, what does Mega do for pregnancy and just like general things that she follows for pregnancy. You know, talk to your doctor and whatnot. They're gonna tell you to feed your baby rice cereal immediately.
So yeah, so this is pregnancy and also postpartum, so a lot of it. So let's just get started. So the first one I would say you didn't partake in, but it's limiting caffeine. So I will say that this is a very personal choice. You don't have to do it because I think like the recommendation
You don't have to do anything.
But they say you can have up to 200 milligrams of caffeine per day when you're pregnant. Especially when I'm pregnant, I choose to limit it. You didn't do this.
I tried the first pregnancy.
And then for like a couple months, he was lying to me and saying he wasn't doing it, but he was like pounding energy drinks behind my back.
No, I had a few coffees.
So I think this is just something for me that was important because, and for both of us, we talked about it, because caffeine is just one of those substances that the way they affect us, how addictive it is, does it make sense that your child in your womb should be getting that?
Of course
right?
not.
It's a drug essentially, and it does cross the placenta barrier, so that caffeine goes to your baby.
I wouldn't give my newborn baby or my 2-year-old son caffeine.
I wouldn't even give my 10-year-old son caffeine.
Exactly. So to me, it doesn't make a ton of sense to be like, you know, once in a while for an energy pick-me-up type of thing, I think is probably cool. But like daily seems kind of excessive to me.
Number 2 is consuming nutrient-dense foods on a daily basis. It didn't have to be 100% of my foods, but every single day, some great examples were raw cheese, seafood, caviar, beef liver, or what I liked to do was take beef liver pills because beef liver isn't always easy to find. It's not that tasty, but this is a great alternative as well. So while eating some beef liver, we would do that like every couple weeks. I also supplemented with some pills. And then this is some caviar. So you can get salmon roe or caviar. Salmon roe is cheaper, right? Having some sort of nutrient-dense food in my day-to-day diet made me feel good, was good for the baby, focused me on like what was important at the time.
So what we referenced for the pregnancy diet, just like sort of a foundational type of list to go off of. I can link this down below. It's the Weston A. Price Pregnancy and Nursing Mothers Diet Guidelines. So what they say, and we didn't do all of it, but we just used it kind of as a guideline of what to look for. So cod liver oil, this is daily. 32 ounces of raw milk, which we didn't really do.
I didn't do the milk, but I did a lot of raw cheese.
That's a lot. 32 ounces is a lot. 4 tablespoons of butter daily, 2 or more eggs daily.
Eggs.
Additional egg yolks, 3 to 4 ounces of liver once or twice per week. Seafood 2 to 4 times per week. Salmon, shellfish, and fish eggs. Fresh beef or lamb daily with fat. Oily fish or lard daily. 2 tablespoons coconut oil daily. Lacto-fermented condiments and beverages. Bone broths, soups, soaked whole grains, fresh vegetables, and fruit.
All those foods that were listed, I think are great for your diet generally, but especially when you're pregnant. So number 3 is limiting sugar alcohols and just looking for bad ingredients and steering clear of that. I definitely found that stevia, monk fruit, the liquid concentrate, I was totally fine with. I didn't have any issues, but I did like to stay away from bulk erythritol, like soluble corn fiber. Okay, so as far as snacks go, usually I'm a savory person, but this pregnancy, I was all about the sweets. This was my go-to. So actually Good Sam is a newer company and they're sponsoring this video. So thank you so much, Good Sam. But they have really great candies that you wouldn't find elsewhere, right? So they have like the hard candies, like peanut M&Ms. So this is their peanut M&Ms, almond candies. They have the cashew candies. It's super, super tasty. And Theo even loves them. So even postpartum, like right now, while I'm nursing, I'll be eating these snacks and I feel really good about them. They just have really good quality ingredients. They're sourced, they know where they're coming from, so we know where they're coming from. They also have chocolate bars, which are good for on the go and super tasty. So they have their sea salt nibs. It's highly salty. I love it.
Hmm.
It's super salty. They have their mint, which you don't really see, and then they just have their dark chocolate. These guys. What's your favorite one?
I guess the cashews, maybe?
I'm gonna go with the almonds.
I haven't tried these bars yet, though.
These candies, compared to like maybe other candies or other snacks, is that it does use allulose. And I found that one, allulose settles better with me and I feel better eating it. But two, it tastes the most like sugar, right?
Yeah, definitely.
And it doesn't have like that cooling effect.
And they have this coffee, which is really top notch. Colombian coffee is my favorite.
And normally I'm not like a big like, where is it sourced? Is it ethical? This and that. Because you're giving it to your baby. Like that is super important to me. And so I'm very mindful of the snacks that I do like to eat and the foods that I do consume. And especially when you have a little one running around. Like if I'm snacking on this, Theo, he needs to have it too, right?
Mm-hmm.
We can't have a drink or food without him having a bite. So if you do want to check out their stuff, and we highly recommend their candies, they're super good. Keto Connect will get you 15% off. So check out the link below. And thank you so much to Good Sam Foods. Other snacks that I really, really liked that aren't sweet, because these were my main sweets, weren't exactly these two things, but things like them. So this Epic Meat Bar, we eat these all the time. Just like any sort of nuts. So we soaked and roasted a lot of nuts. Very just like tasty and crunchy, satisfied my cravings always. So these are just some snacks.
Didn't you always do like yogurt with granola and stuff?
That was my first pregnancy.
Oh.
I didn't do a ton of like yogurt this time around. So the fourth rule I stuck to was not to put a lot of focus on my weight gain and not to weigh myself at home. One, you're going to be weighed regularly at the doctor's anyway, so any weight issues you'll be alerted to by your doctor and when you're there. And then two, I found that with my first pregnancy, in the beginning I was tracking my weight a lot. Like I was tracking it pretty closely that first trimester. I had some fear around gaining weight, and I think a lot of us might have that. At that point, I was like, I have to just put the scale away and remember that I am putting on this weight so that I can bring a baby into this world. And the focus should be on just nourishing myself. So I think taking your mind and your focus off of the scale and just putting it more so on the nutrient-dense foods we talked about and making sure you're feeling good when you're eating these certain foods is way more important. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, and I would say a big tip for the phantom pregnancy is don't weigh yourself at all.
I mean, your focus was to just put on weight, I think, also. You were just like, let me just go tit for tat with Mega so we can...
It wasn't a focus. It was just a byproduct of my life.
Well, the way you ate, it seemed like a focus. It's different for everyone. Like, I have a couple friends who've put on 60 plus pounds. You know, they needed it. And that's what happened for the baby. They didn't have any like diabetic issues. It's just what their body put on. So it can be really scary, but just remember it's super temporary. At the end of the road, you come home with this beautiful baby. And once you have that baby in your hands, and this, I just gave birth a month ago. So this is just very fresh in my mind. Literally nothing else matters. Like my body is the last focus because you're just keeping this beautiful little child alive, right? Number 5 was maintaining my endurance for labor and delivery. I say this with a lot of emphasis because first pregnancy, you don't know what you're going into. But after having given birth once, I know that you're like running marathon after marathon when you have to give birth. It takes a lot out of you for sure. And you don't realize how much like mobility you might want or flexibility you might want. And so for me, I made sure I was lifting at least 3 to 4 times a week because that's what, one, made me feel really good, but I knew I wanted to like maintain some sort of muscle for during and after my pregnancy. And then I was jogging up until 36 weeks. And I found that jogging or walking was the most beneficial when it came to actual giving birth. So maintaining your endurance, I think, is important. Don't just sit around. Don't just resign to Netflix and the couch. I did that a little bit my first pregnancy, but I think it's important to stay active and keep your body flexible and ready to go.
If you are growing up in America like I was, you have this idea of giving birth where it's like the water breaks, you know, spontaneously in the supermarket. You rush to the hospital. You might have to give birth in the car. You rush to the hospital. And then the woman just lays in bed and it's basically like an operation type of setup. Like, you know, the doctor has his gloves on and everything, very sterilized. If you watch like the way most people give birth outside of America and like maybe Europe, It's not like that at all. It's like the people are like very active. There's not really any medical devices around. It's just like open your mind to like that a little bit. Like I didn't even know that was a thing. It really kind of opens your eyes so that you don't just have to be like sitting down in a bed with a doctor and they're like monitoring you on the monitor constantly.
Which is literally what we did. But Matt was very supportive. He's like, hey, maybe we should get up and move around. And I was like, no, I don't want to leave my position.
Even if you do it in a hospital like we do mostly in America, you can still apply some of the techniques and like stuff.
Yeah. The laboring techniques, the breathing techniques, the meditating techniques. And then my final 6th rule is pretty simple. It's don't actively diet or restrict. Your hunger cues, your cravings, all these things are going to be very, very, very different during pregnancy. You might not believe me. And we've gotten a lot of comments when I was pregnant last time where I'm pretty sure it was men. They were just like, that's just an excuse to eat what you want. You don't actually have those cravings. First of all, how dare you? Second of all, you have no idea what's going on in a pregnant woman's body unless you are actually there. Honoring those cravings time to time is totally fine. I would say dieting is definitely just something that should be on the back burner altogether when you're pregnant, maybe even in the first several weeks of postpartum, because you always have time to get it back, as they say, because you have a long life to live.
What about once you give birth?
What about once I give birth?
Would you have any rules then?
Oh, so I definitely up my caffeine.
What about like breastfeeding, rice cereal, that stuff?
I mean, this is very personal. I breastfeed. I choose to breastfeed. I choose that over...
Is it that of
I mean, yeah, because they say, like, there's sayings, right? Breast is best, right?
I'm sort of the mind... Like, there's some people that can't breastfeed, I guess, right?
Yeah, and some people just choose not to. Now, the saying, which I also agree is very true, is fed is best, right? As long as your baby is fed.
As opposed to not being fed, yeah.
Well, better. No, that's not what it's opposed to. It's saying that, like, the breast isn't the only option. It's not the only best option, right? It depends on your family.
Okay, I'm going to have a crazy idea here.
Well, you're not a woman and you don't nurse.
Of course, fed is best.
But that's taking the pressure off the woman who's really struggling with breastfeeding or, you know, exclusively pumping, and it's exhausting and tiring and it's difficult. Sometimes a family can choose formula and that's okay. That's what fed is best to say.
See, I would say it's not okay for me personally.
For our family.
So if we're writing down rules, I think that would be a rule of ours.
Yeah, that's our Gadke family rule.
Yeah. Breastfeeding.
So I guess if breastfeeding is something you want to do but you're struggling with, like I struggled a lot with our first child, lactation consultants are a great resource. And they will come to your house, they will, you know, grab your breast, they will help show you how to feed the baby and what a good latch looks like and how there should be no pain. What about a mom who has to get back to work right away? What if she's the main caregiver of the family or provider?
Yeah, there's certain situations which...
Or you're a single
but even
mom.
if that was the situation, we'd probably like pump and like if we'd figure it out, we wouldn't do formula.
We would, but but there's other options out there, just so you're aware. But yeah, so that I guess is a rule that our family sticks to, is like putting a lot of focus on making sure that our babies are breastfed or they're getting breast milk. So if Matt is going to feed the baby, it's going to be something that I've pumped.
So the doctor, the pediatrician, what is it? One's foot, one's doctor. Babies. Pediatric. Pediatrician. They like really hardcore force rice cereal down your throat.
Not
like they want,
all of them.
They pretty much do.
The one we had was, you know, she was for it.
So they make it seem like it's like the thing that everyone does. Like when you, they phrase it in a way that's like, you haven't started rice cereal yet? That's crazy. Everyone's doing it. So they kind of make it seem like it's what you're supposed to be doing. Of course, you're not supposed to be feeding your baby rice cereal.
I think that's more jaded at this point. Like your mom, your mom and your aunts both all said rice cereal. I should put it in the bottle.
Yeah.
So that
maybe it's becoming more dated. I mean, you just got to look at anything they're telling you and like analyze it a little bit. Like why? What rice cereal? Like that's been invented like 100 years ago. Why would that doesn't make sense that all babies need rice cereal. I think
focusing on the nutrition is important. So what nutrition value does rice cereal add to your child?
Keep the baby out of the sun? What are you talking about?
They do say
humans get in the sun immediately. Why would you keep the baby out of the sun? It's just like a bunch of stuff like that. It's a little crazy. Obviously the baby's really sensitive, so you don't want to like just go out at noon and like, you know, have it in the sun all day. but you definitely want the baby to be getting some sun. They tell you to feed them peanut butter or like peanut butter puffs at like 6 months to prevent peanut allergies.
You can introduce it at 4 months.
Really
say.
dumb.
Why doesn't it make sense?
Look at the data on it. First off, there's like in Israel, they would feed their babies peanut butter flavored like puffs.
Yeah.
And they have less peanut allergies. So a 6-month-old can't eat peanuts, so I don't think it should be eating peanuts.
A 6-month-old can't eat steak either, but we fed Felix Theo steak.
Yeah, but he sucks on the juices.
Yeah, but there's sweet potato. We did. I mean, I don't think that like reasoning is valid because what about like veggies? We did like purees of sweet potato. I don't think it's a big deal to introduce peanut butter when they start eating, but I think 4 months is just generally too early for most babies to be eating anyway. Like
of course.
So a rule of ours is. So we do baby-led weaning. I think that's one of our strict rules, right? So we let the baby, so Theo wasn't ready to eat foods, any sort of solids, until 6.5 months. They say 4 to 6 months. The doctor was even a little worried when we went for his 6-month appointment and he had not tried any food. She was like, oh, but you're going to do it in these next couple of weeks.
It's not that big of a deal.
It's not that. And I have a friend who waited until 9 months.
When you get to like 9 to 12 months, then they're not getting iron, right? In their diet, because breast milk has like barely any. So like they need to eat some iron-rich foods. And I think the rice cereal, isn't it fortified with iron? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's sort of another reason they tell you to do rice cereal.
All right, guys, so that is it. Those are the rules we stuck to, mostly me, during pregnancy and then a couple postpartum. So let us know down below what rules are important for you or were important for you when you had your babies. And don't forget to check out the Good Sam Foods link and try those candies. They're so good. Give them to your kids. Holidays are coming up. So that is that. We'll see you next time.